welcome back to reality. Who is she? Getting married? No. Have been for 5 years, not wearing my rings because I take them off when I'm at home. With the products I use and the principles that I use, I am recreating makeup that I have done on brides. Now there are just certain things that I do with every bride, like blush, bronzer, eyeshadow, but within that there are like different variations catered to what each bride wants and needs. So I talk through all of that. But this is essentially what the makeup looks like when I do makeup for a bride, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm so excited to film this video. Okay, let's put this hair away first, and a lot of the brides I get are pretty low maintenance. So very few of them, which is why one of the reasons they're asking me, right, is because they don't want like an Instagram fake look. This is the Smashbox Primerizer. I live in Colorado, and so most people have dry skin. So I use that on everybody. And then, like I said, most of the girls I see are, when I ask a bride to describe the kind of makeup she would want, she usually says fresh, natural, still fun, but still me. And I love that. I think that is an awesome option. And a lot of professionals, I honestly don't know any personally, but a lot of professionals wouldn't necessarily go that route, or they would say they would, and it still wouldn't be quite what the person is wanting. So normally what I'll do is have the person get not a full coverage foundation. If they already have something they know and love, great. But if they don't, I will usually urge them to get a BB cream, CC cream, tinted moisturizer, something of that sort. Brides usually don't want a full cake face of makeup. So what I do personally is I take a regular foundation and I mix it with the primerizer, or if they have a preferred moisturizer. So that's what I did, and we're just gonna apply this all over their face. So this provides a light coverage that is still like in their preferred skin color, without like caking over their face. I have talked to many brides who are like, I still want my freckles to show, I still want to look like me, So this is actually not very much coverage. My ratio might have been off. So I might go back and do a little bit more for my own personal preference. But I usually walk it through with them like every step. That's one thing that's been really hard about like this COVID season, is that girls can't just walk into Sephora and get color matched right now, or Ulta even. So thankfully both of those stores and apps have come up with like online resources. But I think it's still not the same, than consulting a person. That's better. That's a little bit more coverage. Now I do have some acne scarring that I'm wanting to cover a little bit, so maybe I'm going a little heavier than a bride would want that I would be working with, but honestly, like, it's so different with each bride too that it depends. I have had a few brides who go like full glam, and that's, wow, I look really scary. I just looked at my like monitor thing. It gets better, I promise. That want to go like full glam, darker lip, stuff like that, and that is really fun for me, but that's just not everybody's taste, and I would rather a bride feel comfortable and feel like herself than look like Instagram or something if she feels uncomfortable. And one of my biggest things that I tell a bride is, I don't want you to walk down the aisle and for your fiance to go, who's that? Whoa, that's her. So that's one of my biggest motivators for wanting to go more natural, if that's what they want. And then usually I go right in with concealer and then powder. Because I am not technically a professional, like I didn't go to school for this, I don't have a special code that gets me discounts on makeup. So I don't have makeup suited for every skin tone. So what I do is take a little bit of my Shape Tape. I have a neutral mini here, and I mix it with whatever foundation, tint and moisturizer face product that they brought. So it gets a little bit of their pigment in there, but still can take advantage of that amazing Shape Tape formula. I have my own Shape Tape, so that's what I'm using today, but that is what I use on brides. When I have a consultation with a bride, because I don't have access to all makeup products ever, I wish, I have them bring their own face product and their own mascara, and I provide everything else. And I clean my brushes in between every single thing, so don't worry. Now I usually go ahead and powder everything after this step because I use pretty much all powder products after that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a light dusting of powder all over the face. Now I do have some acne spots right now. I've got one there and one up here, and then I also have some scarring. I am personally deciding for this video not to freak out about it because I'm going the more natural route anyway. But if a bride has like major concerns, I have a color corrector palette that I really enjoy using. So if I were feeling strongly, I would go in with this green, but I don't feel that strongly right now. Okay, then after I do powder the face, kind of all over, I like to go in straight to the eyes. And I use the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer. All of my products, I try to be as sanitary as possible. So I'll put some on my hand and then I'll apply it like with my finger, as opposed to applying it directly from the tube, as opposed to applying it right from the tube. And I tried to be as careful as possible pre-COVID, but since COVID, I've tried to be extra careful with sanitation and just being able to tell people like, yep, I clean everything, I do this, I do that, you know. I just put a little bit more powder under my eyes just in case we have any fall down or in case that needs to set a little bit better. So because I live in Colorado, the population is pretty white. In the area I live in a suburb of Denver, and the area I live in is pretty white. And so I find that there are just certain colors or certain palettes or whatever that I'm reaching for more than others. My main palette for eyeshadow that I use is this BH Studio Pro palette, and it's just got all these neutrals, as you can tell. All of these are shimmers, and all of these are matte. And I combine that, you know, I mix and match and whatever. The ones I mostly use are these browns here. That's what I use the most, I find. But I'm a little bit warmer than some of the brides that I do, and so these might look kind of gray on me. So I think I'm gonna use a combination of that palette and this coconut one from ColourPop. These colors are just a little bit warmer, and I think it will go better. Now there's a couple summers ago where brides wanted more like pinky tones, like pink was one of their wedding colors. I don't know if you remember that summer where everybody was doing like navy and pink and gold. It was like everybody's wedding colors. And so I did a lot of weddings that were more pink. And then I feel like this past year was much more like orangey, bronzy colors. And so I'm trying to decide which direction to go. One thing I like to do often, whether pink is one of the wedding colors or not, is I actually take this Dandelion Twinkle highlighter from Benefit. It smells very good. It, to me, smells like weddings. And I use that as my base. It's got just enough shimmer, but it's not like chunky glitter. And so I like to do that on the front half of the lid. I think it looks really lovely and neutral while still being special. Now that doesn't feel like enough shimmer to me personally, but I think it's okay for now. We can go back and add more later if we want to. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my crease colors, which I'm gonna use kind of these guys. Beep, 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 beep. I was trying to see in there. Kind of these three. 1, 2, 3. And we'll just build up the color. And basically what I do is I ask a bride with every single step, like, do you like that? Do you want to go darker? Do you want to stop there? is that dramatic enough? Is it too dramatic? So it's kind of a long process. Like my trials sometimes can be like a couple hours for makeup and a couple hours for hair. But it's because I'm walking through every single step with the bride. Like she's holding a mirror the whole time, and she checks in. And sometimes it's like, oh, that was a little too dark. It's like, okay, great. I just went down the line, so I'll just make a note of where I should stop. This doesn't look too gray on me. I think we'll be okay. So I'm just going ahead and moving on down the line, going to the next color. So now I have some brides that want more of like a cat eye shape out here, and I have some brides that would just kind of want it to diffuse. Right now I'm gonna go for the look where it just kind of diffuses, as opposed to comes to like a point or something like that. So that means I'm just gonna make little circles in this farthest outward corner. And I might need to go up and clean out that outer edge later, but right now it's fine. I'm gonna just go tad darker right there, right in that outer corner. So we don't want our darkest shade to span what our transition shade is spanning, because that could close the eye and we don't want that. So my intention with eyeshadow is usually like, okay, let's bring attention to the eyes, completing the look obviously, but let's bring attention to the eyes. And so that's usually my intention there. My powder brush was a little bit wet when I put on my under eye powder because I just cleaned it. And so the powder is like sticking funny. Anyway, if you see some splotchies, that's why. Okay, I'm gonna then actually take my translucent powder and just kind of like buff out this outer situation because it got a little bit away from me. And that happens on myself, I do it on other people, it just kind of happens sometimes as I am figuring out how the colors look best on that person's eye shape. Okay, so I think I'm content with that for now. I may go a little bit darker later. So that's a cool thing about when I do a trial is we start on the eyes, we come back, we do this, we do that, and we get the complete picture that we want by the end of the time, even if it takes a little bit. So I feel very strongly about not doing a liquid black liner on any brides. If a bride wants like a cat eye, I will strongly suggest going with like a brown shadow, because one, I think it dates the pictures in terms of like, it's not always gonna be like trendy or cute. Two, it's not flattering on everybody. And three, I think it's a stylized choice that doesn't make a ton of sense for like wedding pictures. If that's what somebody's going for is like a style choice, then that's different. But if someone wants something neutral, tasteful, I will try to stay away from a black liquid liner. So what I will do is I will go in with a brown shadow that I have sprayed with setting spray, and I use the Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray. So because I have pretty dark features, I'm gonna go with a pretty dark one, and I try to get it as close to the lash line obviously as possible. And I use shadow so that as it dries, if I need to blend it out, I can. And you can do that with some pencils or some liquids, but I just find shadow to be easier to work with personally. There we go. Now I have a set of lashes that I love to use on brides, and they're half lashes. You'll see them in a minute, but that is why I try to do even just a little bit of a liner, even if the bride isn't like sure. I try to do just a little bit so that there's something for the lashes to be on, you know what I mean? Okay, then for the bottom lashes, I like to take a sort of just a shadow brush, but like a thin buffing situation, and take shadow on the bottom lash line, mostly just on the outside here. And sometimes I even need to like meet them up on the outer corner. It's not looking like I need to on myself right now, but sometimes I will. And sometimes I'll even go back in with like this kind of a brush and blend it out with my translucent powder. Something like that. If it gets like too dark or too heavy or blends where we don't want it to, things like that. And with that, I think my eyes are done. I may go back with some more shimmer. I've definitely done that in the past. Is sprayed this guy with the setting spray and then gone back and laid some of that shimmer on. And so I may do that, but right now we're just gonna move on. Okay, let's bring some color back into these cheekies. Now, I love to use the Amazonian Clay blushes from Tarte. They have an awesome range of colors, and they have great staying power. One of my favorite ones to use is called Exposed, and then I have another one here called Party, because it's got like a million A's in it. I found it, including the blush color Exposed. So we'll be using that. But like I said, I like to go in with bronzer first. And this is to do a light contouring. I always say to the brides, like, don't freak out. I'm not gonna like Kim Kardashian your face. But because sometimes they're outside, obviously, I'm gonna go a little heavier on me than I would on a bride, but it's because I don't mind that. Especially if the wedding is outside, but if it's far away, if the lighting isn't great, especially, or if they're taking pictures outside and it's sunny, I don't want the structure of their face to get lost in either from distance or from sunlight, things like that. So I will usually do a little contouring, cheekbones, around the forehead, a little bit on the nose, and then jawline. And this is just giving some of that depth back into the face. And we're gonna do a little bit on the nose, just a teeny bit. I personally like that, but if it was someone who did not feel comfortable, I would not do it. So sometimes once they look at themselves right away, they're like, oh, that's like, my face looks different. It's like, yeah, it's gonna, but in pictures, hopefully it won't look that different. Okay, we're gonna go in with this Exposed color, and it's basically like just a fleshy blush color. Like, it's not really like adding a pink or something to the skin, as you can see. It's just bringing face color back into the face, if that makes any sense at all. And if this were TikTok makeup, we'd go across the nose, but it's not, so even though that is cute. And I'm probably going heavier in general with this makeup than one of my brides would, but that's because I am not like afraid of it. But these are all the general princesses, general principles that they use with the brides. Okay, I'm pleased with that. I like that. And let's go back in with some highlighter. I want to use Dandelion Twinkle, because who wouldn't? And that's mostly cheekbones, and I try to go light with highlighter because they're wearing it all day, so there's a chance they'll get oily. And so I never at any point want a bride to be like, am I oily or highlighted, you know? So just enough, again, to complement the contour we just did that brings out the dimension in the face. And we're gonna go in with a more concentrated brush, that same product, that Dandelion Twinkle, and we're gonna go under the brow bone. Oh my goodness, I forgot to do my brows. So normally what I use on brides, because these are the kinds of ladies who aren't used to doing their brows, is I use a shadow, and I use this e.l.f. palette because it's bomb. And so that provides a much softer brow than if I were to go in with like a pomade or a gel or something like that. Sometimes on my blonde brides I'll use a gel, but I haven't had to that often, honestly. So I'm gonna do my brows and be right back. Sometimes when I first mention to brides that I'm gonna do their brows, they get a little bit freaked out and they're like, I've never touched my brows. I'm like, don't worry, I'm not plucking, I'm not changing the shape, I'm not like doing anything like that. I'm just going to darken what's already there. Like, don't freak out. It's always interesting to see their responses. Those are the same girls that are usually like, contour, I don't know how I feel about that. Or lashes, I don't know how I feel about that. But it usually works out just fine. Okay, so we're pretty much done, which is bomb. But I'm going to put these lashes on really quickly. So need to do mascara first. And then I'm gonna put these lashes on. I'll be right back. When it comes to mascara, I have some weird preferences. So black, like brunette or not, I don't like mascara on the bottom. I don't like when people they look like 3 spider legs. I just think that's tacky and ugly. So I'm sorry if you like that. I will sometimes do a little bit on the outside, like this. For my blondies or my redheads, because I have had both, I actually would use one of these two eyebrow gels. So it darkens them a little bit, but they don't turn into spider legs, you know what I'm saying? So that's a personal preference I have, that because I'm doing their makeup, I get to kind of decide that. Okay, now time for these lashes. So as you can tell, they're half lashes, which means they only go halfway across their eye. So if a girl is not used to wearing lashes, they won't bother her. That was a long time to get that thought out. They won't bother her. They won't like stab her because they're not long and like they're not too long. They're like just the right length. They add just enough like hi that it's like appropriate for a wedding day, but they still look like themselves. So it really, you can tell the difference between this eye and this eye. This eye has the lash. It opens up the eye. It like draws attention to the eye, but it's not like, I have fake eyelashes on. We've got our lashes on. The glue is still drying. They look so lovely, I think. Okay, so next is lip color, and I have 4 main ones that I really like to use on brides. They are all Tarte. Tarte's Quick Dry Matte Lip Paints. One of my favorite ones to use is, it actually used to be Festival, but the more that was that same summer that everyone's colors were pink. And then I started getting more brides that had like ivory skin, and it looks like dusty on them. It's more mauve than it is pink. So I don't use that one as much anymore, but I still think the color's lovely. My perfect nude is the Tarte color in Exposed. So I might use that one. It's a little bit more peach than the mauve one. There's this other one called Rosé, which is described as a rosy color, but it's a little bit more orange even. And so for my ivory green toned girls, this is the nude for you. And then I have Best Nude, that is considered a dark nude, and so it's a little bit brown. I may use that, but I kind of want to use Rosé. I haven't decided yet, which I should now. I'm going to use Exposed just because I know it's my perfect nude color. And then one of my personal tricks that is probably not, cosmetology license approved, but when the lipstick is still setting, I have them open their mouth as wide as I can, and I take my finger and I drag it into that corner so the color seamlessly blends into those corners. Because when they're smiling, you can't really tell if there's lipstick there or not, but if there is, it'll get gummy, it'll get weird. So I try to avoid as much as I can lipstick in these corners. And that's how I blend out the color. Okay, I think we're done. You guys, what do you think? This is how I like to do bridal makeup. My personal preference. I'm not a professional, but I'm honored to help my friends. I have never really done a bride's makeup who I didn't have a personal connection with. So that is kind of fun, that I always know kind of who I'm helping the day of. And then I really love to personal attend whoever I did the hair and makeup for. So it's like an all-day thing for me, but I feel like I have an intense eye for detail, and I'm the one that did her hair and makeup, and so I feel like I'm the right person to do that. If I'm already a friend of theirs, it's like not weird to have me around. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that it is even helpful for you to think through, what does wedding makeup even look like? It doesn't need to be super, super glam. This is more glam than most brides I've done, only because I put more on because I like it. But like I said, I check in with the bride at every point. I think I did dinner in my teeth. I check in with the bride at every point to make sure it's what she wants. And that's an advantage to me being a friend, is that I can usually tell if they're like not telling me the truth. And we're gonna be friends after the wedding's over, and so I wanna make sure I do a good job. I think that's it, except I hope you enjoyed my new ring light. Tell me what you guys think. It feels really good to have some more light on my face while I'm doing these. I just want to show you a little bit closer what it looks like. I think this makeup turned out really pretty. Maybe I would go a little darker on the eyes, but I don't know if I would. Maybe. Thanks for joining me. Have a wedding day. That's okay. Keep it real.